Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Holy Cross Band's Downbeat with Alumni, Catch You on Zoom, Divest from Fossil Fuels, Konnichiwa Bonsai, For the Love of God, James, Give Us an A podcast. It gets harder and harder every week to memorize all of that. But here on the show, we take a look into the lives and achievements of college musicians who brought you the good time in different Holy Cross Bands ensembles during their college career. So today we are interviewing Allyn Waller, who is from Atlanta, Georgia, or which part of Georgia?
Atlanta.
Atlanta, all right. He graduated from Holy Cross in 2018. Allyn was a classics major with a computer science minor and was in the teacher education program. He was a Sheehan Scholar back when it was offered, was a part of Eta Sigma Phi and Phi Beta Kappa. He was a member of the Holy Cross Manuscripts, Inscriptions, and Documents Club, as well as the Classics Student Advisory Committee. He recently graduated from Tufts with his master's in, I don't want to mess this up if you want to tell us real quick.
Digital Tools for Pre-Modern Studies.
Digital Tools for Pre-Modern Studies. This guy knows stuff. And will be pursuing his PhD in Classics at Stanford in the fall. So thank you very much for being here, Allyn.
Thanks for inviting me. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. I like to start off the interview with our guests' humble beginnings. So tell us about your music career from where you started and up until now, or whenever you kept on doing music.
Sure. So I have been, I've been doing music of some kind for quite a long time. I sang in my church choir when I was, very small. My dad has always played guitar and sang. I started playing an instrument in 6th grade when I joined band, and I chose to play alto saxophone along with about 11 other people in my grade. So, like all good bands, we had way too many altos. And so all through middle school and all through high school, I was consistently right in the middle in terms of, skill, ability, whatever you want to call it. So I was always first chair, second alto. And then in high school, I joined marching band. And on the first day, they said, we need someone to march tenor sax. And I said, I'll do it. And, I got in the car with, my dad was picking me up afterwards. And I said, I'm going to be marching tenor sax. And he's like, where are you going to get one? And I said, that's a great question. So I was able to use one provided by the school. I tried to buy my own mouthpiece. So I marched tenor saxophone in high school for 3 years. And then I became the drum major in my high school marching band. My high school band, in the concert band program, we had about 200 people across 4 class periods. And then in the marching band, we had 100 and teens numbers every year. We had 2 drum majors, we had a color guard, we had a front ensemble. My school was good at concert band, especially. We would routinely do very well in various competitions and such. We had a lot of people in the Atlanta Youth Wind Symphony and other, organizations. And then when I was looking at colleges, one of the things I liked about Holy Cross when I came to visit was that it had a band program. A lot of the other colleges I was looking at didn't have one, or it was entirely student run or something like that. So that was definitely one of the things that I liked about Holy Cross. And then when I joined Holy Cross, obviously I couldn't keep using my high school's tenor saxophone, so I started marching alto again. I met a lot of great friends, had a great time. I decided to get more involved in the band leadership, so I became, I ran for librarian my freshman year and didn't get it. And then I ran for equipment manager and did. And then I was also drum major my junior and senior year.
It's quite the repertoire. I've talked to a lot of people from Massachusetts and New England, which is the band scene music scene, I've grown very familiar with, both competitive and just by nature, just casual music and stuff. And then I tried to talk to Michael Shun a little bit ago, and he talked a little bit about the huge competitive scene, especially for marching band in California, which as a marching band guy always seems super cool to me. So I don't know if there's any huge difference, but if you want to tell us about kind of that, you mentioned competitive concert band, and you mentioned you had this huge marching band. So if you want to go into a little bit of into detail of what those
Sure.
ensembles did in your high school career.
Sure. Yeah. So it's the marching band scene, at least in my area of Georgia, was similar in some ways and different in some ways. So one of the big things was Cobb County, which was a county, not too far from us, had the highest number of nationally competitive marching bands in the country. So they would always be, half of whatever marching band competition we went to was them. Uh, so, I don't think we ever won first place for overall because, they have 4 band directors and a dedicated practice field that's entirely theirs. Uh, but it was always really good to be able to watch all these really excellent shows every year. Um, Another big difference being in Atlanta and being in the South was there were basically 2 major types of marching band that were happening. There was the core style, which is what Holy Cross still does, and that's what my high school did. There was also the high step marching bands, um, which were most of the high schools in my county did high step. So that was always very impressive to watch and very different from what we did.
You don't see it a lot in New England. Which
No,
yeah,
no. It also, at least again in the county where I lived, DeKalb County, it correlated very strongly to what percentage of your school was white. So the whiter schools tended to do, straight leg, core style, and the schools with more black students tended to do high step. Um, I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but that was a correlation that was, pretty obvious to everyone.
so
But it was always really cool to watch them because we had no idea how to do what they were doing, and they had no idea how to do what we were doing. But music was always really good. High step bands tend to emphasize a whole lot of brass and very loud brass. So often we'd run into the problem of hearing their echo as well as we were waiting on the sidelines behind them to go.
were these at the same festival?
So we played at our high school football games was when we saw most of our local bands.
Mm,
And then when we traveled we did 1 or 2 competitions a year, and that's when we would see we would see the bands that were more similar to us.
gotcha.
There's a marching style and having a color guard that did flags and rifles and things like that.
Mm. In your high school band career, doing music in high school and doing music in college is 2 very different beasts. One's a little more
Yes.
casual, more social. One, and a lot of this has to do with time. In high school, it's like, oh man, it's the first time doing something so dedicating to myself to something so big. So was there a lot of pressure
Sure.
in music when you were playing in high school?
Um, I mean, there was, yeah, I suppose there was. There I think I would say more expectations, The expectation was if you're going to join marching band, you're going to, do your best. Um, okay, our band in high school was also big enough that it was better to not play than to get it wrong, because we had other people in the section who were, juniors or seniors and could provide the volume that we needed. So yeah, I mean, it was interesting. There was a lot more. I think we spent, I would say, outside of game days at Holy Cross, which are 12 hour plus affairs, depending on if you're loading the vans in the morning or not.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I've been there. It's a long days.
It's so weird how the flow of time you s- it's so weird hearing that. Like football games are a 12-hour can be a 12-hour affair, but they almost sometimes they don't feel that way. Like they feel long. You never realize it's 12 hours until like you say
Yeah,
it out loud.
yeah. I drove the equipment vans. I don't know if you still have to do this, but we had to, go load the equipment vans at
Mm,
Hogan, drive them up to the practice field on the top of the hill, and then
mm.
drive them down before the game.
Oh yeah,
And
we still
my
we still do
year as
this.
equipment manager, we were so you know how the stadium is shaped like a horseshoe. We were down at the bottom of the horseshoe, in the bottom of the U shape. So we had to get microphones and speakers to project us over to where everybody sits. Now that we switched over to sitting in the other sitting where I think the band currently sits, next to the student section of my uh, junior year or senior year. That was a big improvement because we didn't have to deal with all the electrical equipment.
Mm,
Um,
nice.
yeah, made it a lot easier in the mornings. We just had to worry about the instruments.
Mm. No, yeah, we definitely still do that. Because my roommate is equipment manager, so he'd wake up at like crack of dawn, 5
Yeah,
a.m.
5. Yeah,
Yep.
because you have to go walk. We had to walk down to the little guard shed to get the keys, then walk to the parking garage to get the van, then drive it up the hill. And yeah, it was an endeavor.
Um. So moving along the timeline, now you're about to pursue your PhD, and a lot of this is like maybe like over 3 or 4 years for you. So which one do you find yourself missing more, high school or college band?
I honestly, it's college band for sure. I made such good friends there. I made good friends in high school band as well, but I'm not still in contact with most of them. Whereas a lot of my friends from Holy Cross and from the band specifically, we get together every Saturday night now and have a call and play games, which has been really great. We started it when quarantine hit, but I'm hoping we'll continue it. Oh, I apologize for the very loud car going
Oh,
by.
no worries.
Okay, I don't know if my microphone picked that up.
We
Um,
did, but it's all good. A little funny.
um, but anyway, yeah, no, the experience at Holy Cross was great. It was also because the band was smaller and because we went through a change in the band director while I was there. Those of us who were there at the time I feel like we got to really have a say in where the band was going and what we wanted to do with it. Um, in a way, whereas in high school I was more, you know, uh, carrying out the band director's vision. At Holy Cross, I felt like we were the leadership team, especially, but also everyone else. We were a part of shaping that vision as well.
For anyone watching, if you want to hear more about that kind of transition year, the interview I did with Rebecca, she goes a little bit into that.
Oh,
So,
does she?
yeah.
Yeah, that was an interesting year.
Hmm. Oh man. Well, glad I wasn't there.
It
A
I
little
mean,
hectic, was it?
I'm really glad that that was a change that for sure needed to happen. That I'm talking about specifically the change uh, to Dr. Riley as our band director. That was a change that definitely needed to happen. Uh, but it was interesting being without a band director for most of the season and a lot of pet band also.
Hmm. So you mentioned that you were drum major in high school and in college band. So as someone who did the role for 4 years, which is the equivalent of someone's like
3 years.
3 years. Okay,
1
gotcha,
year in high school, two at Holy Cross.
gotcha. It's the equivalent. It's like 3/4 of like a typical career, which is pretty impressive. So why why conduct when you have like the opportunity to march in a marching band? What made you end up in the drum major position?
So part of it has always been that I've always been first chair, second alto, not exactly a very necessary instrument. But part of it has also been my focus has never been my personal uh, musical prowess. It's always been for me about the community, and working as the drum major was a way for me to help give back to that community and make try to make it the best that I could. Um, so when I was in high school, I was the only person who tried out for a drum major that my junior year. Um,
Out of 100 people?
yes,
Wow.
yeah. Well, of the 75 or so who were not first year students and who
Right.
were eligible. Um, but I like to think that was because people went, oh, Allyn's gonna do it. He's gonna do a great job. Uh, I don't know if that was the case, but you know, it went, it worked out really well. I think both times, I got along with everyone in the band. Um, so, it, I don't know, it felt like it made sense. Um, and then at Holy Cross, there were more people who actually did try it. For the drum major position, and I think we would have all been good choices. But ultimately, I think it was up to to Dr. Riley, and I'm not him, so I don't know why what influenced his decision the most. But I will say that one of the biggest things about being drum major was the training that he sent Rebecca and I to after we were named drum major. It was a week-long training camp at the Smith Walbridge Clinic in in Illinois, and we got to meet and be taught by the man that Dr. Riley wrote his dissertation about. Very influential man in the marching band community, especially in the Midwest. So that was really cool, and I learned a lot from that camp. Um, Mostly, what I learned to do was relax while I was conducting, because in high school I was very worried about we had two drum majors and we had to be exactly in time with each other, and I often wasn't. Partially because I was getting tense about being in time, which made me late. But it learning to relax while on the stand helped me be more in time. So I think I was definitely from the conducting standpoint, I was definitely a better drum major at Holy Cross than I was in high school. And I think from the leadership point I was as well, although that's much harder to say because the role you fulfill in terms of your leadership of the band and all the little extra things that you do as drum major is very different in a 118 high school band versus a 40 something marching band in college.
So with that, which one was harder to be drum major in? Because you mentioned before that in high school it was a lot more of carrying out a band director's vision, whereas in your college career, and this is something that I feel like is a little more common in college, although it's probably a lot more prevalent for you with a shift in band directors. So was it harder carrying out a director's vision, or is it more difficult uh, having a vision and be able to carry that out a little more, and even though it was a smaller band?
I think I would say I definitely was more worried about what I was doing in high school, um, partially because um, I was very tense anytime I had to actually conduct in front of a group of people. But I wouldn't say either of them were particularly hard experiences. My time with the band at Holy Cross was extremely fun, mostly. Was it fun to get up at 5 a.m. to go load the equipment vans? Yeah, usually. It wasn't fun when when public safety lost my credentials twice, and I had to. There was a problem with checking out vans that happened a few twice. Uh, occasionally there would be less fun parts, but overall, it being drum major uh, made it more fun.
I forgot to mention this before in the introduction, but you also did concert and pep band. So for say that you were talking to an incoming first year, and even though there is such a great arts department, an organization for students to pursue at Holy Cross, they can only choose one between marching, concert, and pep. Which one would you steer said first year into?
That depends on the first year student. Is my honest answer. I would want to talk to them and see what their experiences were like in high school, what they are looking for. At least when I was there, pep band was by far the lowest commitment minimum threshold, and probably the highest effort to fun ratio. So if they're looking just for a chance to get together and play some tunes, at a sports game, that's a great option. Marching band is definitely the one that gives you the most family out of all of those, because you spend so much time together, both on and off the field. And but concert band is the one that really lets you hone your music abilities in and of themselves. Partially, because the pieces are more challenging and not the same thing all the time. Partially because that's just the environment of a concert band. But yeah, I would say it really would depend on what that person was looking for. I think that's also a bit of a trick question, because you can very easily be in marching band and pep band because they don't overlap much.
I think Michael was the first person I asked this question. I asked you the same question. You both gave like such sophisticated answers. Whereas if I ask like if I were to ask like one of my friends this, they'd have like a definitive answer, whether that be like marching, pep, or concert. So yeah.
Well, if you wanted a definitive answer, you should say, what would you say to your past self? That's how you get the definitive answer.
Keep that in mind. Maybe you should
yeah,
as a special host for the next interview or something like that.
That would be an interesting concept for a podcast. Is every time the guest becomes the host for the next episode.
Maybe on them right there.
I'm sure in the vast forest of podcasts out there that's been done somewhere.
Podcasts have become like interesting larger trend in like the past at least a year or so, and I've this quote has always stuck with me, but I forgot where I heard it from, and I've said it in my previous interviews before, but it was basically podcasts are the new band of the 2010s, because back like probably over a decade ago, like in high school, like you have Battle of the Bands and stuff. Everyone has a band, and now everyone has a podcast. So it's funny how that works out.
Looking forward to us scone the podcast.
Oh man. So going back to college music, what would you say your favorite memory was from your time in college band?
I have to pick one. Oof. So I have a lot of favorite memories. Um, Probably one of my favorite memories is when we played when we played no it was conducting Take on Me my senior year. That was a song where I got to stand in the middle podium and do all the stuff. um, and it was a really cool song it's a fun song just period in any form. But it was also a really good arrangement, and the marching worked really well to help with it. um, and I don't know, it was just a lot of fun. um, I would say a second is probably when Rebecca and I got together to design our custom salute our senior year. Um,
Custom salutes are fun.
it was a lot of fun, despite messing it up. I think in like half of the football games we used it in. Uh, well, see, now you got me started.
Once you find the time to do the salute in the football game?
Oh, so that happened at the very beginning, when we were. It was part. It was part of. It was part of pregame. So yeah, we had 8 counts or so where we were just standing still and we did the salute.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was part of pregame.
Mm.
I don't know. It's been a while.
Would number three favorite memory from college band involve driving a van and being involved in some sort of small accident per se?
Oh, no, that would not make my top 10 list of favorite memories, but I could talk about it. Uh, who'd you hear that from?
Rebecca.
A little bit. Oh, yeah, of course.
A little bit from Rebecca.
Okay, that's fine. Oh no, I mean it's not. It wasn't a huge deal, but I sure felt like it at the time. So I will name names. So this is when Andrea Bucknam was a first year and attempting to play the bells and march with those,
Oh
which
man,
are set of marching bells. There,
I think now I can't remember whether or not Rebecca or Andrea told me this. Sorry, you can continue.
either one, but those are very heavy, and that clearly wasn't going well because she couldn't. Her arms weren't long enough to flip the music, so she had to use her the mallet she was using to flip it. So she eventually switched to bass drum, I think. But so I think it was maybe the third day of marching band when she had made the switch the day before, but she forgot her harness up in the band room. And so I said, "Oh, I'll take the van. I'll go grab it." So I do. I go upstairs. I definitely didn't park it in the fire lane illegally. Uh, that definitely never happened, especially not every time we had to load anything. Um, Grabbed the harness and then was driving. So, around Hogan, you go back out onto College Street and you take a right and you can get into the stadium that way. So I took a right and I was going past the tennis courts, and there's a concrete retaining wall there. There's also a pedestrian crossing from from a path up past the tennis courts. So what happened was I was going around this curve, which was effectively created a blind curve because they had these things on the tennis court fences that I couldn't see through. I was going around a curve. There's a pedestrian in the middle of the walkway. I said, okay, he's almost to the edge. I'll just kind of go around him. And then I saw another Holy Cross vehicle coming towards me. And so then I decided, okay, well, I don't want to hit the pedestrian and I don't want to hit the oncoming car. So I think I will just brake really hard and turn the wheel all the way to the right, which was away from both of them. And if I had had another 6 inches, I would not have hit the concrete, the concrete block retaining wall, but I did, and I crunched the front passenger side bumper a little bit. So then, I got out and checked, and it was fine. I drove it down and talked to Dr. Riley, and he, public safety officer came down and took a statement from me, and it was fine. The Holy Cross insurance covers small accidents like that. So yeah, it was fine. I still drove the vans.
You're here now.
Wasn't a whole lot of fun in because that was my first year as drum major.
That's gotta be a little scary.
Yeah, it was a little bit. But it was fine. Wound up being okay.
You mentioned Take on Me, and conducting Take on Me as one of your favorite memories from college band. And you mentioned in the form that I submit to interviewees that that's your favorite song, playing in college band. So did you like conducting it more, or did you like playing it more?
I would say I like conducting it more because when you're standing in front of the band, you can actually hear all the parts, whereas you're in the middle of the band, you hear the people behind you and whoever's loudest. Mm-hmm. So I would say for that song especially, I liked conducting it more. Yeah. The nice part about being drum major at Holy Cross was when it came to pep band season, I could play my instrument again with everyone else and play all the stance tunes and things like
that. Moving from your music career to classics, which is actually your field of work, you received a master's in a related study or related to classics. The work you did related to classics, and now you're pursuing your PhD in classics.
Yep.
But what was it about the field that appealed to you?
So my favorite thing about classics is through learning the languages and learning to read the text is fun in and of itself. But for me, it's a way to understand the culture and the people who produce these texts. So it's a way to peek across time and space to something that's very different in some ways, but also very similar. One of the big things I keep learning as I do more and more with these texts and learning about the people that produce them is that they're people. For better and for worse, they're people, and some things don't change. And I think that is a really, really helpful perspective and has helped me in my thinking about, everything that's happened now is that, people are people. People from, 2,000 years ago, people from 250 years ago, they are, there are some things that don't change.
Were you exposed to the classics a lot in high school?
So my first, I don't know, I had a couple of mythology books growing up. I read a lot of fantasy novels and some sci-fi as well, and that classics kind of permeates that zone as well. So one of the first things that was kind of classics proper, if you will, was the Percy Jackson book series was coming out when I was in middle school. So that was
the movie.
Awesome. I have the original cover first edition that's signed by Rick Riordan, as well as a Camp Half-Blood shirt also signed by him because he came to a book festival near me. This was before it blew up and they made the movie and musical.
These were in my bookshelf right next to me. Love the series.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's before he started writing 7 other series. I got it. Yeah. So that, that was awesome. And at the same time, in 7th grade, we could choose to do a language. And the choices were French and Spanish. And I said, I did Spanish in elementary school. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do French because I don't want to have to learn how to not pronounce letters. So I was like, I'm going to do Latin. And I know I have to wait 2 years to get into high school to do that, but that's what I'm going to do. And I did. So I started Latin in high school, and I really liked it. And when I was trying to think about, what do I want to do for the rest of my life, I started off by eliminating things. I know I didn't want to be, a first responder of any kind. I didn't want to be a doctor because I didn't like, the TV shows where they have to, all the medical dramas and things like that. Those made me a little squeamish. I knew I didn't want to, join the military. I knew, so I kind of eliminated things until I decided, I think what I want to do is teach, some kind of teaching. My parents are both professors. And so I said, what I want to teach, I think I want to teach, mythology and Latin, something like that. So then I started looking into classics as part of my looking at colleges, and Holy Cross kept showing up on lists of, good undergraduate classics programs. My dad actually was the one who pointed it out to me and said, this should probably be on your short list. And so I applied. I did all of my college applications between Christmas and New Year's. I do not recommend this. It was not fun. But I sent them all out, and when I was starting to hear back from places, Father Markey at Holy Cross called me and wanted to talk to me about the Sheehan Scholarship, which is or was a 4-year full tuition scholarship to Holy Cross. So, once I had heard that, I knew that I needed to go visit Holy Cross. So my dad and I made some last-minute plane flights up to go to Holy Cross on, the visiting Accepted Students Day weekend. And it was still a little cold. I think this was March or April, but much colder than it was in Atlanta, where it was already starting to edge towards early summer. But once I got there and I saw how many classics professors are at Holy Cross, 10 full-time people. I think there was an 11th, visiting assistant professor at the time, is a lot, especially for a college that is the size of Holy Cross. That's comparable to much larger universities with graduate programs as well. So that, combined with the fact that it would be much less expensive to go to Holy Cross, kind of solidified my decision. Also, when I was looking at the booths that the various clubs had around, I went to the marching band one and talked with the people there. I don't remember who was doing recruitment that year, but it was a definite plus that they had a marching band, because that was a big part of my social circle and my identity in high school. And I wanted to, be able to kind of continue that in college as well. I hope that answered your original question. I've kind of lost track of what it was.
Oh no, yeah, you did, of course.
Okay.
No worries at all. You mentioned Percy Jackson briefly, so I gotta ask just one question, super quick.
Sure.
When you were a kid, which god would you have?
Oh,
Which camp would you have lived in at Camp Half Blood? Which house? House? Cabin? God?
yeah. So yeah, they had the 12 cabins for the 12 Olympians.
Yep.
Honestly, I don't know. That would require one of my parents to not actually be my real parents. So I don't know if I ever really seriously considered which house I would want to live in. I don't know. I think I think Athena might be the closest bit.
Mhm.
Um,
Goddess of
wisdom,
wisdom, yes.
doing things with your brain,
Exactly. Respectable answer.
both at peacetime and in wartime.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah,
I liked Hermes as a kid.
Hermes is also great, and honestly, statistically, that's where I would have ended up because in the books, Hermes
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 was
is
everywhere.
cabin is also used as just everyone else.
Mm.
Uh, so all the kids where they don't quite know who their parent is wind up there.
Yes. Yeah, I do remember that now. Did you
Yeah,
hear about the Disney Plus series they're making right now?
there's a Disney. Oh boy, I
Yeah.
certainly hope it goes better than the musical and the movie because those are both. Um, have you seen the musical? It's
I have not seen the musical.
so Emily has, and she described it as a uh, if she had heard the books described to her, and then had a very intense fever and was dreaming. It's it's a trip.
Wow. Is it
Yeah,
is it is it generally well received? Because I know the movie's not.
no, it was not.
Okay.
I don't think it was well received. It's I mean it's interesting. It's interesting to see how I'd be interested to see what his reasoning is behind that, kind of decision.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, I can understand making a movie adaptation, and
Right.
then I
Just
also understand
following the
not
Harry Potter trend and
continuing.
everything.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
also can understand not continuing with it after the first one.
They actually made a second one.
Did they?
Yeah, it did not do well at the box office. Was probably even had poor reception.
I was okay. Wow, huh?
Yeah.
Maybe I'll have to track that down.
Uh, so may the Disney Plus series be the third time's the charm.
Hopefully. We'll see. I mean, it's a good story, and they're good characters.
Mm,
Um, yeah,
I agree. And Rick Riordan hasn't caught himself in any controversy. He's still a solid guy.
yeah. No, and I am not terribly familiar with this, but based on a conversation I was having with someone else who entered classics via his books, apparently he's working on um, uh, helping other authors write similar sorts of books about their own culture. So you know how he
Wow.
wrote the ones about with the Egyptian gods and the Norse gods.
Yeah. Yeah.
Apparently, he's instead of continuing to do that with other belief systems, he's trying to get people who are from that culture to work with it,
That's
which is
awesome. Good for him.
yeah, which is really neat.
Yeah.
Uh, based on a conversation I had with someone else a couple months ago.
Mm.
But I think that's a cool idea.
Moving away from Rick Riordan's works and going to things that you've done, can you tell
Sure.
us about the different work you've done in and with classics, whether that be from your master's program to maybe manuscripts club in Holy Cross or whichever other projects you've worked on?
Sure. I mean, I could do that for hours. I won't because uh, because I won't. But yeah, so some of my work at Holy Cross, a lot of my I think my most interesting work and my most influential work, at least on my trajectory, has been with the Holy Cross Manuscripts, Inscriptions, and Documents Club. So for people who are not aware, it is an undergraduate only research club where we contribute to original research on unpublished or yeah, on publications of manuscripts. So we work with high quality digital images and we produce diplomatic transcripts of those manuscripts. So a diplomatic edition means that we record all of the marks on a page as they appear on the page. So we don't correct typos. We don't try to reassemble a lot. Let me back up. In a lot of classics, the idea is you want to try to get back to the original version of the text. Unfortunately, all of our earliest manuscripts are from around the 10th century. So for anything written before that, you're working with presumably copies of copies of copies of copies of copies. So there's this idea that you can form this kind of family tree of manuscripts and get back to the one true original, which, in some ways is always kind of a pipe dream. But in other ways, it does help to smooth out some inconsistencies with works that have enough copies preserved over time. But anyway, what we're trying to do in the Manuscripts Club is to provide diplomatic editions. So we're not trying to reconstruct the original text, we're just writing what we see and also linking it to the text. So the idea is to make things that are collections of images, computer searchable, computer readable, machine actionable, everything, all of the advantages of having something in a digital typed format, of which there are very, very many, as opposed to an image on even a high quality image. So